All right, let's get right into it, Ephraim. And last night, Boston Celtics down 3-0. We had just seen the Lakers get swept. And a lot of people, including, honestly, myself, thought that Boston would go that way as well because they looked anything but ready to take a game in Game 3. Because Game 3, they looked like they quit. They literally did actually quit when their coach took out his best players for the whole fourth quarter. So, but they come out last night and win by 17. And here's what I want to throw at you, Ephraim, because remember, they do have home court advantage. And Game 5 now is in Boston. So you can obviously envision them winning Game 5. Then they'd have a Game 6 in Miami and potentially a Game 7 back home in their own gym. So do you think that the Celtics have a decent chance? Because I doubt you're going to pick them like now. You're like, I got them in 7. Maybe you will, but we'll see. But do you think they have a decent chance of actually becoming the first team ever to come back and win a series down 0-3?
Well, in theory, yes, because of the talent. You got the two superstars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But in reality, no. It's so hard to do at this level, especially in the conference championship. The teams that are at this level are good teams. They're quality teams. And I know you had a lot of bass in your voice saying that the Lakers got swept at the beginning of this. I know.
Well, did they not?
I can smell and feel hate permeating.
I picked the Lakers to win that series, and they disappointed the brother.
I understand. Don't lash out at them. Okay, things happen.
Oh, but was that you were impressed with what they did?
No.
Okay,
Just
checking.
I don't believe. Number one, there's also the Jimmy Butler effect. And you can say whatever you want. You can slice it. You can look at the numbers. You have to throw all of that out the window when you're talking about Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. For whatever reason, this man becomes something special. And not only with what he does on the court, it's the leadership.
Right.
They will follow. When you talk about leadership, this is what true leadership looks like. Like they will, wherever he's leading them, they will go. And you got a bunch of undrafted guys out there playing at an extremely high level. And you're like, well, why is that happening? And it starts with the leadership. It starts all the way at the top with Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, and then on the court with Jimmy Butler. And they buy in. There is no arguments. There is no, it's whatever you say, that's what we're going to do. And because of that reason, I think the Boston Celtics can't muster up enough to win 3 more games against a team with that type of mentality.
Well, I hear you. And first with Jimmy Butler, and I don't know if I've said this to you before, I have never seen a player lift his game, lift his level of play so much from the regular season to the playoffs. Like, I've seen players get better. I mean, if some people might argue, I heard somebody say Jordan was better in the playoffs. I mean, but Jordan was so great all the time, right? Jimmy Butler goes from being basically an all-star level player to a top 5 or 10 player in the NBA in the playoffs. And so I feel you on that. And look, I'm not sitting here about to predict a Boston comeback in this series. However, you mentioned it. In theory, it looks like, maybe they'd have a shot. And here's why. And you said it earlier. They are the most talented team in this series.
Yes,
I don't know
by far.
that. Right, by far. And most times, Ephraim, when a team is down 3-0, it's for a reason. And that reason is typically that they're not really even in the same, on the same level as the team that they're beating. This is reversed. The better team, and they've been better all year long, and they do have the most talent, is the one down 3-0, now 3-1. Secondly, you said they got 2 All-NBA players versus 1 All-NBA player. And they do have the home court advantage, as I mentioned earlier. And here's the other thing, Ephraim. If there ever was going to be a comeback from a 3-0 deficit, it would be at this point in the NBA world. Because with the prominence of the three-point shot, right? I mean, Ephraim, I bet you agree with this. A 15-point lead is nothing in today's NBA, right?
Nothing. Gone.
It's like being up 20 years ago. I mean, we saw the Lakers halftime lead of 15 vanish in a few minutes in Game 4. We saw with the Lakers-Warriors series, whichever team was up 11 or 12, it didn't matter because the other team was likely to come back in minutes. And so I think with what all it takes, I don't want to say all it takes like it's simple, but if one team gets hot from three and the other gets cold from three, you could see a huge shift in this series. In fact, that is what happened last night. Yeah. Boston, which is one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league, shot it like they have all season, 40%. And Miami, which has been one of the worst three-point teams in the league, in the regular season at least, they reverted. They had been shooting 48% from three in the first three games. No wonder they were up 3-0. If they go back to being kind of who they were, at least in terms of shooting the three in these next three games, and Boston goes back to who it was, now you may have a series.
Yeah, but you're asking a lot. You're asking a lot. And the thing about being up 3-1 is those wounds, that's trauma. They don't heal because you win one game, right? When you're up 3 games you've inflicted real damage to the other team, physically, psychologically, all of those things. Now, the Boston Celtics have a young coach. He's clearly outmatched in this. Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA, period. Yes. Right? So when you start looking at those types of things, those little intangibles, right? I don't think, although they were not a great shooting team, a three-point shooting team in the regular season, Miami has definitely found something. I don't think they'll go 8 for 32, shooting 25% again. I don't think that'll happen. And on the flip side of that, who has the most? Let me ask you this: who has the most questions about their team? Right?
Well,
who has the most questions in terms of their superstar? Right?
No, that's a good question. And like I said, the Celtics are the more talented team. Yep. If you were just saying physically, right, on the court, I don't even want to say on the court, but physically, you would probably say the Heat have more questions. But I think what you're getting at is mentally.
That's exactly right.
To me, Ephraim, the Heat are winning. They're shaming the rest of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're saying, look, we play with heart. We play hard. We play smart. We are well coached. We are tough and gritty. And that's why we're beating y'all. Milwaukee had more talent. I mean, the Knicks, arguable, but you could certainly argue they have more talent.
Yeah, across the board, of course.
Boston definitely has more talent. And they just like, we outworking y'all and we play smarter. We execute better. And so I agree. Boston, I don't know which. Look, one thing I'll say about them, they have been at their best when their backs are against the wall.
Yep.
That's a cliche, but it's true with them. You remember last year, Game 6, down 3-2 in Milwaukee. They win. Then they, of course, close it out in Game 7 at home. Last year against Miami, they win a Game 7 in Miami to get to the finals. And obviously this year they beat Philly in 6 and 7. And then, last night, I mean, they won a game that maybe, look, is it possible that Miami succumbed to human nature, right? And they look like they played hard, but they probably have another level they can go to. And so, but Boston, I agree. I don't know which one is showing up. So I'd say more questions regarding them.
And that lies the problem with Boston. Jason Tatum is a dynamic star, but the knock on him is sometimes he completely disappears. Fourth quarter, he disappears. Jaylen Brown believes he's a 1. He plays like he's a 1.
Right. And he hasn't been even a 2 in this series.
Exactly. But guess what? We're not having those type of discussions about the Miami Heat. We know who the 1 is. And there is not a 2. I guess Bam is the 2. Bam would be a 2B or whatever.
Right.
But we know that Jimmy Butler's going to show up. There is no question who's the leader, who's going. And when you take that type of stress out of the locker room and off the court, other guys are just playing free. That's why you got all these undrafted guys out there just playing ball. They're playing with house money.
Let me ask you this, because, we tend to think leaders are born, right? Mm-hmm. Or, a guy that's got that dog in him is just born that way. But what do you think about the notion that Jason Tatum, who's only, believe it or not, 25, right? He's been in the league so long, it feels like he's older, but he's 25. We haven't seen guys lead teams to championships for the most part until they're older. LeBron won his first at 27. Jordan won his first at 27. Olajuwon was older. Now, the guys that were younger, Kareem won it young, but he had Oscar Robertson, right? A veteran. Magic won it young, but he had Kareem, who was the MVP that year. Bird had a team that was laden with Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers. And so what do you think of the notion that, because I agree, obviously Tatum is a bit up and down. Not like Anthony Davis or D'Angelo Russell up and down, but he is, more up and down than you'd like. What do you think about the notion that he's growing into, maybe when he's 27, he'll be able to straight up lead a team and be more consistent to the championship? We saw LeBron grow, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't ready against Dallas in 2011, and then he grew. So what do you think of that notion?
I agree with that notion, because it's when you get to this level, it's not just about talent. Jason Tatum is talented. Unbelievable. We knew that the first year. We knew he was unbelievably talented, but that doesn't always get you across the line unless you have that type of veteran, powerful leadership in the locker room. And over the years, Boston had been trying to find that since the big three left, right? You bring a Kyrie in, that doesn't work. You're trying to put these pieces together to help these young guys grow and lead. Now the onus is on them, and they are not ready to take that step to that next level, right? You lose 2 playoff games at home back to open the series. Oh, bro, like no one, you kill yourself not to let that happen.